Okay. Friends, a very warm welcome to our session this evening. I did indicate during our session last Friday that I will be running a couple of series based on my various books. The series that I'm running currently is based on my new book called Drenched in the Name of Love. This is one book that I believe will truly change your life. And to order it, you may inbox me, please, on my page, and we'll be happy to arrange to have the book sent to you. Do just send us a message and we'll facilitate that you get the book. I do believe in reading and expanding my knowledge capacity. It does help to understand the context of things, including why people behave in a particular manner. And in my quest for knowledge, I have been doing a lot of research around, the different types of personalities. And I think for me, it is important to, to help understand where people are coming from. And I think that as human beings, we tend to be biased towards those that bear the same, qualities like us. And we tend really to gravitate towards that which we understand easily. And that which you don't understand naturally, njengabantu, as human beings, we tend to label it or even just demonize it simply because we don't understand it. We can't relate with it. And often one of the reasons for relationship failures is really around the clash of personalities between those in a relationship. And then all of us are born different. The challenge you often have to contend with is understanding, and perhaps keeping up with those whose qualities abangafani nathi, whose qualities are different to ours. How do I relate to that? And this evening I'd like to focus on the type that is called the narcissists or the next, as sometimes they are called. And next week I'll be focusing on what we call empaths. Please do understand that there's so much that one can say to share about both the empaths and the next. I've really tried to summarize my input because these sessions that I'm running are really not meant to be long at all, and therefore it's not possible to cover everything. But if you want more details, do go to our book Drenched, where there are more details. Narcissism really can be described as a condition in which people have an inflated sense of their own importance. The type that we regard as full of themselves. They have an exaggerated sense of self-importance, and they come across as self-centered. They have a self-absorbed and sort of an obsessive concern about appearances and just positive self-regard. And this is the type that, when they walk into the room, everyone notices. And and they have the ability just to take over and monopolize conversation so that everything is really about them. They actually don't mind even exaggerating their own achievements and talents, even if it means that they bend the truth just a little bit to embellish their achievements and perhaps their worth. They have this sense of grandiosity characterized by a sense of superiority. They are also known for lacking empathy and consideration for other people, and their lack of empathy can cause them to trivialize matters that are of importance to other people, simply because it's not about them. This type can walk in, out of the room, out of the house while leaving you crying and bleeding without an ounce of care. They are extremely sensitive and react badly, to even the slightest criticisms, disagreements, which they view as personal attacks. For the people in narcissist lives, if you are in a relationship with them, it's often easier to go along with their demands to avoid the war, battle, or enrages. And in an employment setup, they may be found taking credit for other people's work, blaming colleagues for mistakes, taking advantage of others to get ahead, or even responding to feedback with hostility. Now, they also need, constant praise and admiration. They have this sense of entitlement, because they are special. They frequently demean, sometimes intimidate, or even bullies or belittles others. since they are sort of strong-willed and have a strong people and have a strong personality, at times it becomes impossible really to solve, any problem with them without there being a fight. And those in relationships with them can attest, that with them everything often ends in an ugly battle. If you dare disagree with a narcissist, they can spew such poisonous and destructive words that will make the pain of putting up, with their self-centered habits just a walk in the park. Narcissists can and will do what they want, how they want, and at the time when they want it. And they also exhibit, interpersonal exploitative behaviors. They tend to feed, off your emotions, whatever reaction that they can get out of you, especially negative reaction. It actually becomes their fuel. The more you react, the nastier and the more toxic they become. Some people have been on the verge of extreme depression and complete insanity due to years of abuse by narcissistic partners. And the tricky thing about relationship is that, relationships are intimate, and often couples need to engage on a deeper level as they seek to kind of strengthen their union. They are built on intimacy. Now, this does not exist with a narcissistic person. They will be very polite at the beginning, but when the gloves come off and you continue on the cloud of love and affection, they start criticizing you, saying things like you are needy and you just want too much from them. Intimacy for them means satisfying their greatest pleasures, using you, and then flying off to their next exploit, whilst you are left feeling empty. And then whenever you attempt to go there, all hell just breaks loose. Unless, of course, they are in the mood and it's done their way and only their way. You can never dare to be dissatisfied with anything. Remember that they are amazing. They are amazing people. And this often sends people into depths of despair, as it is something that is not easy to speak about. And most people are too embarrassed to open up. And many have deep scars from being told how useless they are and how, they just can't make the cut. And out of sheer desperation, their partners eventually vent, to the outside world, even on issues which could have been, dealt with and resolved internally. Now, they can also destroy, your self-image, and no matter how intact it is. And they will peel it off and leave you broken, naked, and completely ashamed. Shame is a terrible thing to have to live with as you pick yourself, up while already bleeding, and as you continue to suffer in silence. But having said all of this, what I've come to appreciate, and from the research that I've done, is that behind this image that we see of a narcissistic person, behind this mask of extreme confidence, lies fragile self-esteem that's vulnerable to the to the slightest criticism. Now, one psychologist says narcissistic individuals are actually really hamstrung by insecurity and shame, and their entire life is an attempt to regulate their image. Narcissism has never been about self-love. It is almost entirely about self-loathing. Many of their behaviors stem from self-loathing that really leaves them angry and frustrated, and they take this out on others as a coping mechanism. But it doesn't mask the fact that deep down they are experiencing great pain of their own. They may act superior and confident, but are often fragile and sort of lack self-esteem. They crave attention and praise, yet they are, unable to form close relationships. Those are a struggle to them. They're in love with this, self-inflated self-image, precisely because it allows them to avoid these deep feelings of insecurity. But, propping up their delusions of grandeur takes a lot of work, and that's where the dysfunctional attitudes and behaviors come in. Their extreme and unconscious defensive orientation, it has a way of preventing them from experiencing, the deep and uncomfortable emotions that we need in relationships. Our relationships, they are sustained by our emotions. You need our emotions such as empathy. You need our emotions such as insight. You need self-awareness. You need sincere emotion which is taboo to them. One psychotherapist actually says if you have a long-standing relationship with someone, with powerful narcissistic tendencies, then you know how tough it is. And I'm sure most of you who are in this situation will attest to that. I mean, as you try to engage with them, the next, you realize that you're actually not on an equal proposition. You ask yourself, how does someone become this way? You need to get insight into causal factors so that you can develop wisdom as to how to deal with these people. Some of them is really because of the childhood experiences. They have a way of influencing how narcissists develop. Some were neglected as kids, they were abused, they were criticized, and felt like they were never good enough. On the other extreme, some were doted on, they were pampered, they were overly shown affection, and grew up thinking that they belonged to just an exclusive group. Either way, both skewed, both skewed in their thinking and interpretation of emotions. And the next also have a very strong sense of right, and wrong. So in their younger years, they actually got exposed to what is called imperative thinking, that is very direct. It's either black or white, do this or that. And the older we get, we realize, the command, the formula, and the agenda can be there for certain things, but life is not that cut and dry. And therefore, their life has got a lot of gray areas. Now, narcissistic people also didn't choose to be this way. And this is the part of thing that we need to understand. In that we are really living we tend to be informed by our society. We are products of our society. We are products of our families. So our behaviors come from things that we may have learned along the way, and we've adapted as ama coping mechanisms. Now, narcs are just really broken people like me and you who just have using imperfect coping mechanisms to live in this hostile world. I mean, they could be the way they are because of experiences, and for others, it could be a combination of genetics and life's experiences. Some are just having, the type of confidence or an ego that I say is actually a bit out of balance. But all of us need some confidence, and you find that there are those who have lots of it, that who come across to us as really unbearable, overbearing, and insufferable. And then you've got those that lack it. Then you find the group that is in the middle who believe, and those are I believe, have a very healthy esteem. But for those in relationships, it makes all the difference if you have a perspective about something, and if you understand what it is that you are dealing with. It tends to inform your approach in dealing with them. Of course, dealing with the narc does require patience. It requires lots of patience. However, it's not easy to be patient with someone if you don't understand them and the type of a person that they are. It becomes easier to forgive them if you understand that they do mean well. I suppose it's one thing dealing with a person who's a narcissist and you just happen to work with them. It's another when you are actually in a relationship with them. It's really not easy, to contend with their attitude on a daily basis. Hence you find people staying with narcissists or having relationships with them, in a way ending up resenting them, and it becomes sort of a love-hate relationship. And for that reason, therefore, if you have a close link with a narcissist, you have to have a huge capacity to forgive. Otherwise, you will forever, the relationship, may really struggle a lot if you don't have that capacity to forgive. And since, the coping mechanism of the narcs is to neutralize what seems like a threat to them, you are therefore dealing with someone who is always armed and forever ready for war. And therefore, you need to be aware of this and to always have a strategy of disarming them for meaningful engagement. Because I've realized some of them are the sweetest people, but that sometimes feel threatened. And which means you need to find a way of disarming them, watching the words, what you are saying to them, understanding that they don't really take kind to criticism. So you have to make your comments in a very careful and positive ways. Stay calm and not to react, if they try to pick up a fight or even gaslight you, making you doubt your own reality. One person said, if you lash out, think of them as a 3-year-old who feels rejected because their parent sets a bedtime. So also, they don't also like that if you are in a habit of going over past issues, don't try to make them see a long line of behavior dating back, back years or how they are just like, their father or their uncle, instead you need to, stay, in the present, where you express, sincerely your hurt feelings, and don't take things personally. As one person says, to protect themselves from feelings of inferiority and shame, narcissists must always, deny their shortcomings, cruelties and mistakes, and often they will do so by projecting their own faults on others. And it is very upsetting to get blamed for something that's not your fault, or be characterized with negative traits you don't possess. But as difficult as it may, you need to try and not to take things personally if you are dealing with an ex, and because it's really not about you. You also need to know yourself and your worth, and when you know your strengths and weaknesses, it's easier to reject any unfair criticism leveled against you. Also let go of the need for approval. It's important to detach from the narcissist's opinion and any desire to please or appease them, at the expense of yourself. You need to be okay with knowing the truth about yourself, even if the narcissist, sees the situation differently. So that knowledge will really liberate you if you're dealing with a narcissist. And as I close, I do have faith in the power of God to change any person, because I'm sure some of you will ask, can the narcissist change? In fact, some people have already made massive progress just by associating, with the next. And it is just that we are too close for us to see that there's a difference that has been made. A friend of mine who once dated an ex said to me that she was fortunate enough to hear from him, the neck, that that she has actually changed his life in such a manner. So yes, there is hope that people can change because of our own positive influences. So the person that you are with could very well be your area of ministry. And well, friends, I hope that this does help someone. There is so much to share, so little time. And as I close, for those of you that have participated in our competition, as you know, I was nominated in the Book Behind Awards, and we came up with a little competition towards this. And I promised to announce our lucky winners. So I must say, so many people have supported us, and I really want to say thank you very much to all that have voted. With my team, we just ended up having to do a lucky draw, and the following people will be receiving their hampers from us, and they can expect to receive Apostle Melus Vilane, Spesihle Mdleje, Avela Nodata, as well as Nkanye Somzobe. Congratulations to all of them. And now the competition has ended. The voting itself for the actual awards ends on the 31st of August. So please do keep those votes coming. Simply SMS to number 34877, SMS TBBA, BMA 92, and do encourage others as well. We count on you for your support. We want to bring this award home. And please do like and comment and share. And see you next time. And thank you very much. God richly bless you.